You unmute yourself, Harshji.
Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start our Thursday class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityorma amritam gamya. Om sehna bhavatu sehna bhunaktu saviryam karvavahi, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti 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 om. Before we started the class, I told you that I am going to talk about the 5 virtues of an ideal student. Student. We should try to be a student all our life. That means a person who wants to learn more. In Sanskrit, student is called Vidyarthi. Vidya means knowledge. Arthi means who desires to seek. So Vidyarthi, one who desires and seeks knowledge, is called Vidyarthi. There is a beautiful Sanskrit shlok about it. It says, Kak cheshtha, bak dhyanam, shwan nidra, tathaivacha, alapaharam brahmacharyam vidyarthi pancha lakshanam. So these are the 5 characteristics of an ideal student. This is what we learn from the animal kingdom also. That's why these names over here are given. What do we learn? What do we learn from a crow? Kak means a crow. You remember that story from your childhood? A thirsty crow couldn't find water anywhere. Finally, he found a pitcher of a water with a very small neck, and he could not put his beak into it. But he was thirsty. So what kind of effort he put? That small bird. He picked up the pebble one after another, kept putting it into the pitcher until the water was above those pebbles and he could drink it. Kak cheshtha. So we got to make an effort like a crow. If a small bird can make an effort, we are human beings. Don't give up. Kak cheshtha. Bak dhyanam. Bak means a crane. I'm sure you have seen, if not in person, but in picture, how a crane is standing on one leg for hours and hours. Can we meditate like that? We are not being asked to stand on one foot or one leg. We are asked to sit down and do the dhyan. So do the dhyan or focus like a crane. Shwan nidra. Shwan means a dog. Sleep like a dog. We all know how dogs sleep. Any little moment, dog will be alert. That kind of a sleep. Wherever there's a danger, where there is any noise, wake up quickly like a dog. Or at least wake up in the morning like a dog, fully awake. Not half asleep most of the morning. Then he says, alap aharam. Moderate diet. Because if we eat too much, we become lazy. Alap ahara. Rishi Patanjali says, half of our stomach should be filled with food. Half. And we do all know what the size of the stomach is. Stomach is not this big. Stomach is the size of our fist. Half should be filled with the food. 1/4 for the water. And 1/4 empty for the churning. That is a alap aharam. So Vidyarthi should eat moderately. Brahmacharyam. Celibacy. Control your senses. Have a sanyam. Our eyes should be in our control. Ears should be in our control. All our senses should be in our control. Vidyarthi Panch Lakshanam. So we got to see, do we have these 5 qualities or not? Are we alert or not? Are we focused towards our goal or not? Focused. So kak cheshtha bak dhyanam shwan nidra tathaivacha alap aharam brahmacharyam vidyarthi panch lakshanam. Okay. So if you forget everything else, at least remember these, cultivate these qualities. And talk about it to your grandchildren also. I'm sure children are very old now, but grandchildren. Because even in your academics, in their academics, it will help. But for us, it will help on the path of spirituality. We are Vidyarthis too. Okay. So in this class, these days we are doing, or we started Taittiriya Upanishad. And last time I told you the Taittiriya Upanishad is from Yajurveda. And Yajurveda has a lot of mantras, prayer mantras, upasana mantras. So that's why in the first section, you will see a lot of prayer mantras. The very first verse which we did, that is like a peace invocation also. It says, Om Shanno Mitraha Sham Varunaha Sham No Bhavatu Aryama Sham Nah Indro Brihaspati Sham No Vishnu Urukrama Namo Brahmane Namate Vayo Tvam Eva Pratyaksham Brahm Asi Tvam Eva Pratyaksham Brahm Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tatmam Avatu Tatvaktaramastu Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So each time we start the class, we'll start with this mantra also. So now let's look at the second verse. This is called a Varan Swar Adi Shikshanam. So these students, they already knew about the rule of the grammar. But this Guru decided to just go over it quickly. Because grammar is needed when we want to study something deep. So he says, Om Shiksham Vyakyasyamaha Varnaha Swara Matra Balam Sam Santanaha Iti Yuktaha Shiksha Adhyaya. Om Shiksham, the science of pronunciation. Vyakyasyamaha, we shall explain. And what is that? Varan, sound. Swar, the pitch, the accent. Matra, measure. Balam, balam is the effort which is employed in the articulation. Effort. Sam means uniformity. Santanaha, continuity in pronouncing the letters Santanaha. Iti means thus, Ukta has been explained. So he says it has already been explained, but I'm just only reviewing it right now. He says we shall now explain the science of pronunciation, which consists of the sounds, accent or the pitch, quality or measure, the effort put in articulation, uniformity, and continuity in pronouncing the letters. Thus has been explained in the lesson on pronunciation. This is also called a science of phonetics. And that goes under the name Shiksha. Shiksha. Okay. Before instructing and initiating the students into the Vedic study, they had to go through a thorough schooling in the art and science of pronunciation. That was part of it. The rules of the language, articulation of the language is very important. There are rules in any language. In English, we have rules. In Hindi language, any language, there are rules. Because otherwise, what happens? If the rules are not followed, the wrong pronunciation, wrong meanings come out of the language. So rules should be followed. And Sanskrit being such a rich language, one word could have many meanings. One word changes the whole context of the subject. So it was very important to follow the rules. So that's why teacher is addressing here the Vedic students. By the time the students have come to learn the Upanishads, that if you want to master the Upanishads, do not forget what you learned before. So he's just reminding the students of the importance of these topics. So he's not teaching them again, he's just reminding them. So the science of phonetics includes varana, letter of sounds, swar, accent or pitch, matra, the measure or length of quantity, balam, the effort in pronouncing, sam, pronouncing the letters of a word uniformly, and santan, continuity of words. We all know that letters fall under many groups. There are the letters which are spoken from the throat, they're called guttural. Then there are palatal, from the palate. Then there are dental, from the teeth. And then there are labial, from the lips. Okay. The accents are the tones that generally fall on the vowels in each word or syllable, or of three kinds. It's called udat, when there's a very acute and high pitch, udat. Then there's a anudat, it's like a middle pitch. Then there's a swarit, low pitch. Okay. The measure or length of time required in pronouncing the short or long or lengthened vowels is also we need to do it carefully. So this is the phonetics. The correct time taken to pronounce a short vowel is considered 1 instant. In Sanskrit, it's called harasva. To pronounce a long vowel, like a 2 instants, dirgha. And when it's prolongated even further, like a 3 instants, it's called palukha. Okay. So harasva, dirgha, and palukha. And the effort in pronouncing is indicated by exertion that the speaker is putting on the vocal cords. Right sound in the right way. See, that's why when we hear two people speaking, we can distinguish who is speaking from all this. So the science explains these efforts under two different headings: outer effort and the inner heading. And the rule of uniform pronunciation is very important. Meaning can become totally different. In English, sometimes we talk about God is nowhere. The same sentence, if spoken differently, seen differently, God is now here. When I was little, there used to be this little word spoken to emphasize this, which is like a regular blending of sounds and words, which is called santan. Ajmer gaya. The same thing can be understood aj mar gaya if it's not properly said. So the correct meaning with the correct pronunciation, with the right effort, with the right continuity, that's all needed. See, Aj mar gaya means today died. Ajmer gaya has gone to Ajmer, the name of the town. And ukta. Ukta means has been explained. So this word indicates the end of the section, and it clearly shows that teacher must have given exhaustive discourses upon these 6 limbs of the science of pronunciation. Uktaha. He says, I have told you that before. Now I'm just only mentioning it over here. So that means it must be very, very important. For us also, we know that. Next verse. Sehno yasha, sehno brahmacharasam, ath ata sanghitaya upanishadam vyakhyasyaamaha panchasu adhikarneshu adhilokam adhijyotisham adhividham adhiprajam adhyatmam tah mahasanhita iti achakshate. Saha means together. In our opening verses also we sing that verse. Om Sehna Bhavatu. Seh means together. Now means both of us. Both means the teacher and the taught. Yasha, glory. Saha together, now both of us, brahmacharsam, effulgence born of holy life and scriptural study. Brahmacharyam, varchasam. At means now, ataha, hereafter. Sanghitayaha, the teachings of conjunction. Sang, conjunction. Upanishadam, vyakhyasyaamaha, we shall explain. Panchashu, in 5. Adhikarneshu, perceptible objects. Adhilokam, concerning the universe. Adhijyotisham, concerning the luminaries. Adhividham, concerning the learnings, vidya. Adhiprajam, concerning the progeny, praja. Adhyatmam, concerning yourself. Ta means they. Mahasanhita, the great combination. Iti means thus. Achakshate, they call, declare. The student is saying, may we both, teacher and disciple, have the glory and effulgence born of holy life and scriptural study. Brahma Varchasam. The teacher says, so in the same verse, first part the students are saying, the second part teacher is saying. The teacher says, now we shall explain the secret of teaching of conjunction. This teaching is based on 5 perceptible objects. Number 1, universe. Number 2, luminaries. Number 3, learning. Number 4, progeny. Number 5, the body, yourself, what you consider as yourself right now, body. These they call the great combinations or blendings. Mahasanghita. So the teacher and the taught, after the initial introductory talk upon the science of pronunciation, now the discussion on the Upanishad starts. And he says, we need to do some upasanas first. These 5 are for upasanas. We talked about what upasana is last time. When the mind and the intellect get perfectly sharpened, they become so sensitive. And they can have a full apprehension of the truth upon something which is perceptible. You see something, but you know that there is something more to it than what you see. And upasana is recognizing that more. Something subtler in that grosser. So when the teacher has finished his previous talk, when he said Uktaha, that's when student started to sing the prayer, expressing a wish that I want to learn more. I want to know about Brahman and I want to have the knowledge of that Brahman. And that's why this teacher, he started prescribing various methods of upasana. So he's talking about 5 different kinds of upasanas over here. The 5 I just mentioned. So upasana is a technique by which the entire mind, this dynamic mind, is directed towards a thought flow, towards a defined goal. And you are contemplating. Through upasana, you are contemplating. So different types are given to suit perhaps different students. Because there were several students. So he said, I'm going to talk about 5 different kinds of upasanas. Because in the early stages, it's very hard to meditate. Something which we don't know about it. Something is so subtle. Because we say that Atma Paramatma, it's formless, it's nameless, it's attributeless truth. And we also say that it's omniscient, omnipotent, infinite. Those are the words for us, but we really cannot comprehend it. So in the elementary training, the mind needs some idea or ideas to fix its attention. That's why when we did our meditation this morning, practicing Yoga Nidra first, it was easier. That is a upasana. It's another form of upasana. So in all upasanas, the technique is to tie down the mind to a central idea. That way you are allowing the mind a limited movement. Mind which likes to go into the entire universe, you are telling mind, just focus on the little finger, the ring finger, the middle finger. Mind just goes there. Mind listens to these instructions. So these are all upasanas. Because otherwise, mind just love to have that freedom to roam at will in the entire universe. And that's what's called a restless mind, uncontrolled mind, or a monkey mind. We are trying to train that mind of ours through upasana. See, these days, in our altars, we have the statues of the divine beings. It could be a Lord Ram, it could be a Lord Krishna, it could be a Mata, it could be a Shiv, it could be just a Om, or it could be just our Guru. So these are available to us. All these deities, they were not there in the Vedic time. That's why the upasanas, this Rishi is using the upasanas not on the form of the deity. He is talking about the universe, the luminaries, the learning, the progeny, yourself, whatever was there. That's why in the Vedic time, or even now, it just continues. All our sacraments are with the fire, the divine fire. That is also upasana. In that fire, we say it's a divine fire. We are offering something which is pure. We are saying the mantras with the name of God. And we are saying that see the God in the form of the fire. That's upasana. Okay? It's like a tangible, something tangible, and we just put the divine on that tangible. This was an elementary training in meditation back then. And we can use the same thing now too. So they supplied, these rishis, they supplied a substratum which was tangible, which was known to the students before he could make them superimpose upon that symbol, the idea of a vast and an ampler truth. And once this technique is understood, all upasanas which are prescribed in the Vedas become self-evident. And you can see that. What is the purpose of it? And when he uses the word Mahasanhita, it's like a Maha means great, Sanhita means combined. Combined. When two words are joined together, that compound word in Sanskrit indicates the point of a conjunction. That is the conjunction. Two names come together. So teacher is very intelligently taking up a compound word and its structure as a substratum for his students to superimpose certain prescribed ideas, so they could meditate upon it. So the superimposition upon the combination of words fall under 5 headings according to this rishi. So these represent the 5 different fields of independent thinking superimposed upon the limbs of the compound words. Let me give you an example of a compound word. Like a Maheshwar. That's a compound word. Maha and Ishwar. So when we combine it together, it's a Maheshwar. So Maha is Ishwar. So Maha and Ishwar. The first word Maha is what? It's called prior. The reason I'm telling you these words over here, because in the next 5 verses, you will know these 5 conjunctions. So Maha is called the prior, and the Ishwar that follows is called posterior. Okay, prior is a Purva, posterior is Uttar. So prior sound with which the word Maha ends, and when it joins with the I of the posterior, with Ishwar, together what it becomes? A. So Maha Ishwar becomes Maheshwar. A. So that is like a sound in conjunction. So this is clear form of the combinations which is to serve as the substratum for the students' superimposition in Upasana. Okay, so let me read this again before we move further, because he's going to give us how to do Upasana on each one of them. On the universe also, luminaries also, and rest of them also. We don't have to do all of them. We can choose one if we want to. So student said, may we both, teacher and disciple, have the glory and effulgence born of holy life and scriptural study. See, brahmacharya life is a holy life. So brahmacharya life, only then we can have a Brahm Vidya. We can understand Brahm Vidya. If our senses are not in our control, forget about the Brahm Vidya, because all our energy is being dissipated into the sensuality. The teacher says, now we shall explain the secret of teaching of conjunction. This teaching is based on 5 perceptible objects: universe, luminaries, learning, progeny, and body. These they call the great combinations of landings. So this is what I explained it to you. Okay. Now let's look at the first upasana. At adhilokam prithvi purva rupam dhyau uttar rupam akashaha sandhi vayu sandhanam iti adhilokam dhyayate. At means now, adhilokam, concerning the universe. Prithvi, the earth. Purva rupam, prior form. Dhyau, the sky. Uttar rupam, posterior form. Akashaha, atmosphere. Sandhi, the junction. Vayu, the air. Sandhanam, means of joining. Iti means thus, adhilokam, on the universe. Dhyayate, one should meditate. The teaching concerning the universe is this. So like if you want to think that in the entire universe, there's Brahma. The earth is the prior form, the Purva Rupam. The heaven is the posterior form, the Uttar Rupam. The atmosphere is the junction. Air is the connection. Thus one should meditate upon the universe. Dhyayet. So meditate. So it's a very familiar structure of the compound world. And the idea is turn the superimposition by the upasak for the purpose of his contemplation. This kind of a meditation gives the student a chance to harness his monkey mind. Mind which wants to go into this object, this person, that person. Just look at this earth and look at that heaven. It's connected. So it's like a subtle perception of the vastness of the cosmos and interconnection between the perceived polarity in this phenomena. It's all connected. It's all one. It's almost like if you have many objects made out of plastic. Interconnectedness is what? The plastic, not the shapes, not the forms, But the material which is made out of, the same thing over here, the interconnectedness. Because sometimes as students, we are reading and chanting, it's not possible to fix our entire mind upon the words of the text. The mind wants to wander away here and there. And that's why a large amount of our mental energy is being dissipated into the wandering fields. Wandering fields. But during the intervals, we can still see what is happening. And these wandering energies of the mind are being harnessed here for the purposes of concentration. That there's a conjunction. There is a reason that they are together. And that is upasana. So embracing at once the heaven and earth, sure, it's great. But most of the disciples cannot do that. Most of the students cannot understand it. So that's why he says there's an air in between, there's an atmosphere in between, which is connecting them together. Just like a Maha and the Ishwar, that A sound is connecting those two words. That's Sandhi. So there's a Sandhi, there's a conjunction. This is meditate on that at least. Ultimately, you will make your mind expand into that exuberance, into that freedom. But first, to start from that. So this is the first example he's giving it to us. And then we'll see the rest of the 4 examples also next week. So let's stop it here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much. Any question?